You were here for a reason. I know you're going through some hard times. I know life at times might feel rough, or you might feel weird, or things might be frustrating, but it's not going to always be like this. Your condition is not your conclusion. I've got to just take maybe 5 minutes to kind of just unpack my story so that you have an idea of who I am and why I speak with the passion that I speak with. There was a time when I was in a really dark place. You know, my mom had me when she was 16 years old. I grew up without my biological father in my life. I struggled with years for drug and alcohol abuse. And I just found myself in a really, really, really weird and dark place. I had to repeat the 7th grade, and when the 8th grade came around, I'll never forget hearing at a parent-teacher conference, a teacher tell my mom that I wasn't high school material. And I came to tell you that words are powerful. And when I heard that statement, I remember feeling like, wow, you know, like I am really, really a failure, you know? Like it's one thing to tell a student, hey, okay, you're about to graduate from high school, you're not college material, you're not gonna go to an Ivy League, maybe you should go to a tech school. Like I've heard that, right? Like different people have different paths, but how do you tell middle school kids that they're not ready for high school? Like it affected me. And I'll never forget going that next year, and after a series of events, a lot of fighting, a lot of struggling, that school ended up kicking me out. They got all bent out of shape because I cut the electricity off. The next year, I went to another school, got the report card at the end of the year, and because I did not do well and I did not put good in, when I got that final report card, all F's, 1 C. And my mom is this tall, but when she gets mad, she turns into the Hulk, you know? And I'm thinking like, this is not gonna be pretty. But I came up with a plan. I said, you know what, I'm gonna change my grades. So I went to the library, I got that whiteout, I crossed off all the F's and the C, I took a fancy pen and a ruler, and I put those small little dots and lines, and I gave myself all A's and 2 B's. Then I made a copy of it. And as soon as I got home, I gave it to my mom. She took one glance and was like, boy, where your real report card at? I said, Mom, let me explain. She said, no, I don't want to hear it. I know what happened. I said, you do? She said, yes. You probably lost it, how you always lose stuff, and you went to the office and they had to make a copy of theirs on file. I said, yo, you be knowing, Mama. She's like, I'm like, you know everything. She's like, I know. But at the end of that summer, when my real report card came in, it was really rough. I'll never forget, like, when I first tricked my mom and she saw it, she was like, I'm so proud of you. She started crying. I even got emotional. I was like, I told you, Mom, I'm gonna make you proud. She hugging me, I'm hugging her. We got like a breakthrough. And you're probably wondering, like, Jeremy, why were you crying? Like, you know you didn't really earn all A's and 2 B's. Well, for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a failure. Like, I actually felt successful, like worthy, like, I felt like I was good enough. And so that was a bit of an emotional moment. But it wasn't real because I didn't really earn those grades. Now, when my school sent my real report card home and my mom saw it, she was in denial. My baby made A's and B's. So she called the school. I was like, oh, hang up the phone, Mama, hang up the phone. And again, she's in tears. But now what was once tears of joy, now it's tears of sorrow, tears of pain, tears of frustration. And she's trying to figure out, like, I wish my baby would just get it together. And I was so hurt, but I felt stuck. I was depressed. I was tired. I was struggling. I felt like I was an accident. Like, what's the purpose of life? Like, why am I here? You know, I felt like I couldn't fit in. When it was time to read, I didn't want to read because somebody was going to tease me because I wasn't a good reader. We was always getting into fights. People was bullying me. Then there was a time when I was the bully. Like, I just struggled. And I was like, what's the point of it all? And my mom's a great mom, so she moved me to another school. So now I'm at the school now called Huntsville High. This is my 3rd school for the 9th grade. Now I'm at this new school, and I don't know how to explain it to you, but I got a group of teachers, I felt like they were weird. They were saying stuff like, Jeremy, we believe in you. I'm like, me? One teacher was like, oh yeah, Jeremy Anderson, on top of my man, this is gonna be the best year ever. I'm like, okay. One teacher, I had to ask him, I was like, wait a second, y'all are way too enthusiastic. Did y'all get my transcripts? Like, y'all got the right Jeremy? They was like, yep, we got the right Jeremy, but you're in a new season now. So you don't have to worry about the past. I was like, yeah, but you do know about last year? Yep. I said, you know, this is my 3rd school. They was like, we're not worried about that again, Jeremy. You're in a new season now. So let's not bring old things into a new season. And they began to speak life to me. They began to encourage me. They began to affirm me. And because I was young and I was immature, I kind of felt like, well, you don't really understand my story. You don't come from where I come from. And I try to build a wall up. But you know what knocked that wall down? It's love. You know what knocked that wall down? It was perseverance. You know what knocked that wall down? It was like unwavering commitment and support. And I realized you can be black, white, purple, blue, green. We need each other. And if you're showing up because you believe in me and you see great things inside me, like maybe, just maybe I could do great things. You're
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the R.E.A.L. Academy. Thank you for joining us. As I left this comment up from Principal Kafele, this is Jeremy Anderson, and we just got through watching Principal Hurt, if you were on with him a moment ago. And as the quarterback of the school, when I was principal, one of the things that I used to do is make sure that my students and my staff members were motivated. And Jeremy Anderson, he's one of my favorites that I used to use, because everything that he said in his video are things that our children need to hear. So we're going to get started. We hope that you enjoyed that, and we try to share things intentionally with you that you could take back to your classrooms and your schools that you can use. So I always share what we use in the comments. So again, thank you all for joining us. And if you were on with Principal Hurt, I think one time he posted something about me being I was the Brett Favre, and I had to text my husband. I said, "Well, is Brett Favre a good quarterback?" And he said, "Oh, he's the GOAT." I said, "Okay, that's good then." But thank you all, because I'm not a football person. Tammy is, but I'm not. But thank you all for joining us again. Welcome to the R.E.A.L. Academy. I'm Dr. Sheikah Houston, and my trust mate in education, Dr. Tammy Taylor, is joining us. She was off last week at a conference, but she's back with us today. We are the co-founders of Create and Educate. We are a literary and educational consulting firm. So we help leaders as well as schools. We were able to improve our schools in 1 year, 2 and 3 report card grade levels, with the help of our dynamic staff members. So we come on Saturdays as a part of the Fantastic Four to pay it forward, but we also work with schools and leaders in our firm as well. So if you need that help, please reach out to us and let us know. That's one of our passions and things that we enjoy. Um, so we're going to go ahead and get started, because we don't have that much time. We normally cut the video off at 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but we wanted it to get to a certain point of what he said. So our topic today is how do you respond when students are not engaged in school? And in my role currently, when I'm going around to help schools and teachers and principals, what I'm hearing a lot, a common theme is, well, kids just after the pandemic, they're not engaged in school anymore and they don't care about school. And so what I've seen, some, not everywhere, is that when we don't get the response we want, sometimes it's kind of like how people approach diversity and equity in the wrong way. It's like, oh, well, we put it out there for them. It's up to them to get it. And, that's not what it's supposed to be. So we're trying to bring you something that could actually help. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Shika. And yes, Brett Favre is one of the best. I am a football fan. I had three brothers, and so I just had to get with the program. Principal Hurt, you have to tell me, who am I? Which quarterback?
Yeah, put them on the spot.
I'm teasing now. I'm really just teasing. But as Shika said, I love that when we came on, we want to make sure that we are looking and providing you guys with an opportunity to hear people like Jeremy Anderson, because when you have access to those types of resources, kids need to understand and they need to be able to connect with the fact that they can do great things, and that the season that they currently are in, it's not going to always be like this. Vashawn Mitchell has a song, and I don't know if everybody knows Vashawn Mitchell, but in his song it says, "It won't always be like this. God will perfect that which concerns you, because sooner or later things are going to turn in your favor, because he's working it out for you." And as administrators, as the quarterbacks of the schools, we have to be in a place where we are able to lead our kids in that confidence building, to know, look, this is not the best look right now, but it won't always be like this.
Exactly, Tammy. And that was a thing that we definitely had to do when we were assigned those report card ratings. We had to let our students and teachers know this is the rating, but this is not who we are. And you do that, and it has to be a constant message. It can't be a hit one time thing. You have to constantly do that. So in my town hall meetings, I would always show videos like from Jeremy Anderson, and
Mhm.
we would discuss them. And a lot of the gold cast videos. If you're not a person who, sometimes I hear principals say, "Oh, that's not my thing," and it may not be your thing, but there are things out there that you can use. It need to be somebody's thing in the school to motivate your children and your teachers, because just as he stated, it's not just the children that are going through things and need that encouragement. It's the teachers too. But one of the things he mentioned that I wanted to reiterate was that words matter. And for him to hear a teacher say that he wasn't high school material, it impacted him. It crushed him. It crushed his spirit. So we don't want to do that to children. Children don't just wake up and say, "You know what? I want to be a failure." Nobody wants to fail. What they need is exactly what he said at the end. They need our love. They need our encouragement. They need to know that we care. And we have to show that. And we don't show that by making sure we have our I can statements up and we're staying to the curriculum. Those things are important, but you have to do some other things to make sure they know you care as well. So,
Definitely. I think too, she could, like, the bigger thing sometimes, as you were saying before, is just having that consistent message that you are more than you even know. Because right now they can't even fathom who they are, and it just blew me away. Like, this isn't the first time, of course, that we've listened to him with this
mhm,
particular message, but who says that somebody's not high school material? Everybody goes to high school.
I
You
couldn't believe that.
There's
Yes,
no such thing as he's not high school material.
right.
Even if he was struggling, you have to make him high school ready, because he's going to high school. So I just think sometimes, like you said before, we have to be very mindful of the power that our words have.
We
And
do.
we have to use those words to build up and not tear down our kids and each other.
Exactly. And we definitely have to make sure that I think when he said, the person said that they weren't high school material, sometimes we get caught up, in the wrong things. I don't care how far behind a child is. If we put the right supports in place, every child can get to where they need to be. It's up to us. We're the people that has to put it in place, and we have to make sure that it's happening. And with those messages, I used to tell my students, "I see you. What do you see?" And your answer should be greatness. And whether or not I knew they didn't think they were great at that moment, but I said it enough to where they started to believe I am great. You got to allow children to experience some successes. Like he talked about, when he was saying, "Did y'all get my transcripts?" Everything is not just about, and I have even had to have some coaching conversations with people in my role with MTSS. Sometimes it's bias that exists there with children in tier three. They're making A's or B's, so we must have grade inflation. Children in tiers 2 and 3 can make A's and B's. They're not exempt from that. That's not what that means. That means your interventions are working. So sometimes, again, we get caught up on the wrong things, and we put children in boxes, and we're not promoting them to the degree that we need to, because in our mind, what we see is what we think of a tier 2 and a tier 3 student. We got to get rid of that. You should see Matthew or Elizabeth or whomever, and that they can be anything that they want to be. So, getting children engaged in schools, I actually went down to a school to help a teacher with this. And one of the things that they have to know, we have to know as teachers, what do you want to be? To me, there's nothing more relevant to a child than connecting what you're doing to where they see themselves. And so, them being able to see that end goal, that's what I talked about last week, that's important. So, as much as you're able to connect to where they're going and why it's important, because a lot of them don't have that background knowledge to be able to know how we connect science to um, being an engineer or what have you, whatever they want to be. And then we also have to make sure that we are exposing them to different careers that they can adventure to be, because they don't have the background knowledge to know all of those possibilities as well. So I make sure I put up things like in the career fields, welding, HVAC systems, electricians. I put up things that require 4-year degrees. So we have to make sure our children can see some type of end goal, and that they know we're expecting for them to be something. And if they don't know yet, I always tell them, let's start with your favorite subject and we'll go from there. We're going to research what you can be, what you're going to be, because that expectation for everybody has to be there. It can't be that, oh, kids don't care, so I'm just throwing my hands up. I tried, I put it out there. It's up to them to get it. That's not the attitude. We can't do that.
And I think what happens, and especially just kind of going back to what you were saying about the students who are tiered 2 and 3, academic tiered 2 and 3 students, when we are going to have to move away from boxing kids
Yes.
into these compartments that we define them in. And don't get me wrong, because I know that interventions are important, and I believe that the multi-tiered system is the way to go, because you can address those individualized and specific needs that students have. But the goal is always, or should always be, to work those kids back out of that into tier 1 instruction, so that they are making A's and B's. And I think until we discover the power in the partnership with the kid, with the parents, then we're doing ourselves and the children a disservice, because we hold them hostage to these tiers that we feel like they are committed to, and we sleep on what the potentialities really are, not even thinking about the kids that are in these tiers, some of them who don't even have to be there. They're there because they haven't been engaged in their
Hmm.
learning and accountable for what it is that they have to do to steer clear of being identified for tiers.
Definitely, Tammy. And it's kind of like what Principal Kafele talks about a lot, that opportunity gap. Sometimes we don't even really know what the children can do, because they're not even really showing us on some of these assessments, because we haven't explained why it matters, or they haven't
Mhm.
bought into, why it even matters. So,
Which comes from the attitude gap, because he talks about that. Why do we have it? Why is
mhm.
the opportunity gap there? We have to first address the issues that create the attitude gap. Why are they disengaged in the first place? Like, why are they not into what it is we're doing at school? Because most of the time, now maybe not most, but many times, the materials are not relevant.
Mhm. And it takes, again, you should have the background knowledge to be able to connect it to things, but if you don't, get somebody to help you. That was one thing that wasn't hard for me to do. It's still not hard for me to do. And a lot of the books, even now, connects it for you. I was helping a science teacher, and the book even had the connections to other subject matters. So there's ways to do that. But again, that first piece is that relationship, just knowing the kids, knowing that you care, that you see something
Mhm.
beyond a test score, something beyond a zip code. I always, when I'm going to talk to school students, show them my life, that was raised in a single parent home. I show them that I have half brothers, because my dad was married twice. I connect with them on a level to say, hey, I come from the same community that you came from. Anything that you want to do, you can do it. It's up to you. And we're here to support you and to help you do it. And we believe in you. I always show them the school diggers report of where we're ranking. I ask them where they think we're ranking, and then show them the actual ranking, because like I said, no kid just wakes up and say, oh, you know what? I want to be a failure. I don't want my school to do well. But you have to show them the right things and have the right messaging. So I showed them where we had grown 9 levels and that we needed to continue to grow in our state. But one teacher, that I was working with before at the middle level, she was unwilling to accept the fact that children just didn't weren't engaged in the work. They didn't care about school. So she came up with some ways to try to get them engaged. And what she used was out of her grade book, just the point system. It was the class average. So she put that on the board and she created a competition between each of her classes. And that was something that ended up not working just for her class, but then they extended it to the team, and then we extended that competition throughout the whole school. So now you have a team competition, you have class competition, you have school competition. So sometimes we get in our academic brains and we get so caught up on the content that we forget what children like. One of the questions that I asked when I went to talk to children this week was, how many of y'all play video games? Because I know that's what children like to do. That's what my children like to do. And probably in each class, half or more of the students raised their hands, and we talked about how much time they spend on these video games and how is that directing, to their goals. But girls and boys, and sometimes teachers are surprised about that, but children love competition. So
They
the
do.
fact that you have more than half of your children, that's what they like, competition, and you're not using that to draw them in, we've missed it as the educators. And one thing that I used to say at school that I probably shouldn't have, it's not rocket science, people. These things are things that we should really easily be able to get children engaged, just through competition. Go ahead,
It's
you were going to say something.
really, I was just going to say, it's really a spectacular thing when you infuse competition into what's happening in the school. And you can extend that competition to the families. Like
Hmm.
the big Carolina Clemson rivalry game is coming up in a few weeks. And we've used that to promote reading in the school. We have Tiger teams and we have Carolina teams, and they're in a chase for who's gonna be the top group for having read the most books. We've also extended that to a service
Hmm.
project because we're collecting canned foods for a local food bank that we're going to make a donation to at the end of all this. So in the competition, you can create scenarios where you are helping them with to being able to become stronger readers and sustainable readers while making them good people. So
Hmm.
competition can be healthy and can bring about that energy that you're looking for to tie the kids into exactly what it is they are working towards. And of course, we play this up really big. The staff's all involved, and we come in our Tiger gear, or they come in their Gamecock gear, and we make it a pretty big thing.
Hmm.
So, and I
We're
say
going
go
to have
Tigers. I
to
don't know
end.
about
We at
that. So,
10:55 now, Timmy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying we're at 10:55. So not to cut you off, but we do have to get on with Principal Kafele. We're going to continue this for another week because there's one other strategy we would like to share with you that I got from one of my interventionists. He created. He used to work for Nintendo, so he's figured out a way to create gaming competitions within the classroom for students, and that has worked really well. So thank you all for joining us. Please hop over to Principal Kafele's page and join us next on his page. Join us on Sunday with Unlock the Middle and on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Dr. Roz. You all have a great weekend, and don't forget to go see Wakanda Forever. We're going there next. Thank y'all.
Yeah.